I'm here with Jake Holmes, the mayor of Bristol, Virginia, as part of my local mayor interview project. So let's get started. So, question number one. Every leader has a why. Could you share a bit about your path to the mayor's office and what specific moments or issues made you realize you wanted to lead?
So I'm on city council. Being mayor, like we select mayor from amongst the council members. So I've been on council 3 full years, starting my fourth year. So I didn't seek out being mayor. I sought out being on council is kind of where I'm going with that. So I prior to being on council, I had worked for a state legislator for just over a decade. Had some good experience. Never thought I would be the one that would put my name on the ballot, run, do anything like that. However, in our city, we're a smaller city. We had some issues pop up. We have a landfill that has had some difficulties. We have an economic development project that didn't kind of pan out the way everybody thought it or had hoped it would. So I just felt like I had some good experience that I could hopefully bring to the table. So I decided I would go for it. And with it being an election, if people didn't want me, they didn't have to take me. So back in 2022 was the year I ran. So I jumped in and ran, and kind of that's how we got here. I was on council for a year, and in 2023 and 2024, I was selected as vice mayor and served in that role for 2 years. And then when our mayor rotated off, I took over this year as mayor. So it's kind of the journey to get there.
Awesome. And then, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
37. So
That's what I thought. You looked really
yeah,
young.
yeah. And our council is actually on the younger side. There are three of us around the same age. There's a gentleman in his 40s, and then our former mayor, she has since resigned because she got a job promotion in her day job. She was in her 50s, so we kind of have a younger
Oh,
council
wow.
compared to others. So
Yeah. Question number two. What is a typical day or week like in your life with this office?
okay, it's each one's kind of different. I work a full-time job in addition to being on council, being mayor. But the mayor side of things today, I had the Chamber of Commerce in Bristol. The mayor is on that board, so I went to a board meeting this morning, discuss the bi-monthly stuff that they go over. Stop by City Hall, had to meet with our city manager, meet with director of HR, meet with our city clerk, just about different issues that we're facing and dealing with. Sometimes we'll have evening meetings. Last night we had a meeting that went about an hour and a half, so I had to schedule around that just to discuss the different appointments we have to work on right now. And then I have a city phone, so I'll get phone calls from constituents or local businesses with an issue, with a question, and just kind of field those as I can in and around the day job too. So it some days are definitely longer than others. And then some days, the city side of things, it's a little quieter. The work side of things, a little quieter, and you can balance a little better. But it kind of ebbs and flows every day.
Awesome. And then, so when you say the city phone, is that like a separate phone, or is it just a separate line?
Separate phone. They give us all the council members a cell phone, so if we can give that number out to everybody and not our personal. But then also, if we get FOIA, if somebody has a freedom of information request, we can hand over our phone and they can go through it, and it kind of keeps things separate for us and a little more
Yeah.
secure that way.
And then obviously you have a separate city email too, but most
Yeah,
city governments do that too.
yeah.
Um, okay, next question, which does tie into the phone thing. And you kind of already answered this a bit. Local community is very important. How do you make sure to stay connected to the pressing issues of your neighbors?
That's that's a good question because you've got to just kind of be there. You got to show up. My wife and I, we don't have kids, so I to know what's going on in the school system, I have to go and show up. And I go to athletic events. There's an event at the elementary school today I'm going to celebrate a local organization. Communities and Schools is in 100 schools in our region, and they're doing a big celebration at the school today. So I'm going to that just to be there and support. But you gotta be out and about. When I go to the grocery store, I'll have neighbors stop and ask me questions and tell me what's going on. But I think you just gotta be out and about and show up. I have a social media page where I post what I'm doing, where I'm going to be, that type of thing, so folks can find me, and then folks share things with me to come to, and just Um, it's a lot of time management issues, but just making sure you're hitting like the business community, uh, education events, that type thing, or just downtown events. We have a vibrant downtown, so just being out and about.
Awesome. And then, so the next section is about governance, and this is one of the important things that I'm trying to figure out asking all of these mayors is the styles. So, question number four, governance is often the art of compromise. How do you define your leadership style when you're faced with a room full of different people who all want different things?
So I think at least starting out in those conversations is I may have some strong feelings myself. I may have some ideas, but I want to make sure I'm hearing everybody, making sure I know kind of, for lack of better words, what the playing field looks like. So I know this group thinks this way, this group thinks this way. Here's their issues, just so you can have a better, fuller conversation. And then two, I've always heard the expression: if you go into a meeting and like you get every single thing you want, you've done it wrong. You're supposed to find that compromise. So making sure that you know there are some things that like you've got to stick to your guns on, like you know this is, it has to happen or it's vital, like this is necessity, but there's also this thing I would like to happen or it should happen or we should work this out, but it I can work on that piece if it benefits somebody else to do it a different way, that type of thing. So just knowing that everybody everybody wants what's best for our community at the high level, but the way they go about it's a little different, and just understanding that as a fundamental, you can have those conversations of differences there.
Yeah. And then, this isn't a question on my sheet, but this is something that I've been meaning to ask. What is the relation like with the other Bristol, the Bristol, Tennessee?
And I would say right now it's pretty good. There have been times where it's not been so good. Our main street is the state line, so our
Yeah.
community congregates there, and it leads to some built-in friction. I will say that our city staff, like the police department, works really well with their police department. Fire departments go to each other calls. Our city administrators work together, but the city councils sometimes can butt heads. To run for office, you got to have a little bit of an ego. That's just part of it, and so when you get egos in a room, like that can cause some friction. But I think right now the relationship is good. I haven't seen the mayor on the other side in a little bit, but I try to talk to him, try to talk to the city council members when I see them, just to really catch up and just make sure there's a friendship there so we can work together too.
And then, so you kind of mentioned this with the police and fire. Do each town have their own services, like EMS and everything like that, or is anything shared?
Um, the official city departments are all separate, like fire and EMS and police. Public Works is separate. However, we both share a library system. There's a main branch that's on the Virginia side, and there's a smaller branch on the Tennessee side, a little out of town, a little bit. And there's various other organizations, like our Main Street program downtown. It's called Believe in Bristol. That's shared between the two cities. So, and then our tourism and marketing organization, Explore Bristol, is shared between the two. So the internal departments, the government functions are definitely separate, but then anything we can share, we try to. But that leads to friction and funding questions: who funds more, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So,
And then, I'm gonna jump a question here because this next question is a bit different. So, no town is an island. How would you describe the current dynamic between your town and the county? And for what I'm actually more curious in is the town and the state, because you're obviously Virginia and the other one's Tennessee. How does that kind of change things with state laws varying?
um, that's a really good question, because especially during the pandemic, that state line, there was a distinct difference. Like Tennessee is a more conservative government, and they were a little more wide open during the pandemic. Virginia was a little more progressive government, and they were a little more cautious in the approach to things. So there was more restrictions on the Virginia side. So it was, you could walk down State Street and see a difference there. So that doesn't come into play quite as vividly as it did then, but that's just a good example. And with Bristol as an independent city, so we're technically not part of the county, Washington County around us, but we do work with them. They're our neighbors. I grew up in Washington County myself, so we that's another place where just being stuck together at the hip like that, there's friction that's kind of built in just because you're
Yeah.
together. But it's also we try to be good neighbors. They try to be good neighbors. We try to work together, and then we do work with the state on anything we can. Our state capital is 5 hours away. We're closer to like Nashville, closer to other state capitals. So it's there's kind of a disconnect with Richmond, but our local representatives, they do a good job of vouching for us and representing us up there. So we have a good line of communication.
You're the second mayor I've actually talked to in Virginia. Do you know where Cape Charles is, like across from Virginia Beach?
I've heard of it. I think I've been there, but
Yeah.
it's been a while. Yeah.
I talked to their mayor, and since you were just talking about the relationships with Richmond, and that brought me back to that because they're on the other side of the state, so it's like
Yeah.
just a different feeling like that. And then I forgot that Virginia does the whole like county and city municipality thing differently because here in
Yeah.
North Carolina it's all just counties, so
Yeah.
it's a bit different. So next question: being in the high country, our environment is as challenging as it is beautiful. How does the reality of Appalachian weather and terrain shape your long-term planning for the town's infrastructure and safety?
Thankfully, leaders 30, 40 years ago had enough foresight. We had a lot of flooding issues downtown in the whole city. And we have a beautiful park called Sugar Hollow Park. It's huge. I forget how many acres it is, but it's beautiful. But part of the park is a dam that prevents water from coming downtown. So thankfully, a lot of the weather and infrastructure issues we had, they dealt with a generation or two ago. So that we have been blessed by that. Um, when weather events come through, like the winter ice storm that we had a couple weeks ago that hit Nashville real bad, hit Washington County next door to us, it didn't hit us quite as bad. And being a more urban environment and not having with us being just a city more urban, everything's more compacted and there's less terrain issues for us to deal with. So thankfully, in the city itself, the weather doesn't impact us nearly as bad. During Hurricane Helene, Damascus, the town of Damascus, as a lot of Western North Carolina, but Damascus in Virginia was the spot that got hit really hard. That's where I grew up, the town I grew up in, and the areas around us were hit. But like Bristol somehow always gets a little spared from the weather events. So knock on wood that'll continue. But so we've not had to deal with that quite as bad.
Good. And then I should have written this down on here, but I didn't. But I always ask it. What was Hurricane Helene like for your town?
We had some tree limbs, a few trees that came down, a little bit of flooding in some lower areas, but nothing too impactful. And like I said, Damascus was hit hard, so we were able to send some of our police officers over there because they had to close the downtown temporarily. And our guys, our Bristol, Virginia police officers were the ones letting people in and out of town. So we were able to assist our neighbors and kind of just help out. But thankfully, it didn't hurt us too bad.
That's good. I lived on campus last year, so all of me and my friends from the dorm, we all walked around. I got just some insane photos because campus was like
Okay.
underwater. So, like the science building, the water was like completely covering the bottom floor. It's
Dang.
insane. Um,
That's yeah.
yeah, and then so because Western North Carolina and the state, I know a lot about that dynamic. Is there a similar dynamic between like Western Virginia, but not West Virginia, and like Richmond and kind of DC as well?
Yeah, we consider ourselves Southwest Virginia. It does confuse people when they hear West
Yeah,
Virginia, but it I grew up here in the expression that the state stops at Roanoke. Roanoke's 2.5 hours from here to the east. It's halfway to Richmond for me, but people in Richmond don't think there's much beyond Roanoke, even though you can drive another 4 or 5 hours in the state and still see so many people. So we do have a disconnect with our state capital, but Virginia is bigger than you expect, kind of like North Carolina. It on the map compared to Texas, it's small, but there's a lot of countryside. There's a lot of territory, and folks just get so in their bubbles. And the Richmond area, the Northern Virginia area, and the Virginia Beach area are so populated that they carry most of the population weight in the state. So we get forgotten sometimes. But like I said, our legislators are good at advocating for us, and our whole region is more conservative. So we have a Republican delegation that goes to Richmond, but they work really well with both sides and have good relationships. They're a lot more moderate than you might see elsewhere. So I think it works well.
Yeah, that's good. And then that's something we always like. I talk a lot about like political trends in my political science classes, and it's been very interesting to follow Virginia over the past like decade and a half, because it's kind of going a lot different than the rest of the southern states do, like politically
Mhm.
trending wise. I also was at the Virginia Capitol, I think last summer, so
Nice.
I do know what you're talking about. It's a really nice
Yeah.
building, modern everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, last question here. What is your favorite part of your community in Appalachia?
I this is a kind of a weird one because it took me a while to get here, but my favorite part is something I used to be kind of ashamed of. Is just the distinct Appalachian culture we have, like the accent. I went off to school in Central Virginia, thought I lost most of my accent. It comes back at times, but just we have such a unique culture in our region. And it's not just old school like hillbillies playing banjos. It's there's so much more to it, and just the culture, the family, the music is part of it, but just the art, it's distinct, it's different. It can be very modern at the same time, but just the culture, the Appalachian spirit, which is so vague to say, but like it just I don't know, just it's a unique place that we live in. Always growing up, always compared it to others, but I'm proud to be where I'm from, and I'm proud to live here now, and just having that spirit of Appalachia is just a really cool thing. So
Awesome. And then before we go, what was your experience like in scouting?
and I loved it. It was one of the best things I could have done as a kid. I'm actually getting reconnected with scouting to be part of the council leadership right now. But it I got my Eagle in 2003. Um, I spent I went through like started in Tigers, went all the way through
Oh
Cub
yeah.
Scouts and then Boy Scouts, and it just made some amazing friends. Got to go to England with it with a 100-year celebration of scouting in 2007. We took a trip to England, went to the World Jamboree, went out west with the scout troop, went up to Canada to explore Algonquin National Park. It opened so many doors for me, and just got to learn a lot, and it really developed me as a human. So I appreciated that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's gonna do it for this interview. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for taking part, and I'll go ahead. This project it won't be finished until like May, but I'll definitely email the YouTube video link
Yeah.
to you. Basically, I'm gonna go through all the responses. I'm gonna say here's kind of what the general trend is, and kind of just map it. I don't really know how I'm gonna do that yet, but I'll get it done. It'll
Yeah.
definitely because this is all in addition to just doing class, but I'll show my
Yeah.
professors be like, wow. So, so yeah, thank you so
Very
much.
nice.
And this has been an
Yeah.
interview with Jake Holmes, the mayor of Bristol, Virginia.